So we're going to be talking about customer segmentation today. And customer segmentation, that is going to be found under customer segmentation in our premium dashboard on the left over here. So with segmentation, the main thing with it is to really understand who to target for your marketing initiatives. So we break down our customer base into different segments depending on recency, frequency, and monetary value. And I'll jump into that in just a few minutes. But one of the great things about Headset is you can take all of the different dashboards and really start to tell a story with it. So we can start out with pre-campaign analytics. We can use a lot of the dashboards that we've already been through in a couple of previous training sessions. If you haven't attended all of them, we kind of have started to build a story with understanding who our customers are, understanding the products that they prefer, understanding their purchasing behavior. On Tuesday in the training section, we discovered that our customers 66 or older of age prefer capsules. They shop at noon. So what can we do with that type of information and really build a strong marketing campaign with that? So our segmentation is really the kind of middleman between pre-campaign analytics, figuring out what your strategies are going to be. And then after we segment and target those customers, we can start to build post-campaign analytics, determining if it really brought more people to their store, if it increased revenue in any way, if it had a impacted sale velocity for specific SKUs. All of that good stuff can be done within Headset. So it's kind of a fun little story you can build with all the different modules here. So segmentation specifically, like I mentioned, we kind of build it out into different segments within recency, frequency, and monetary value. So the first dashboard here, the segmentation overview, this just gives you a really high level overview of who is coming to your store and what segments do your customers fall into. So to give you a little bit of information, explain what we're looking at, what we can do is aggregate this by store, or we could look at all of the stores together. We can look at customer attribute. So whether you have more emails or phone numbers, and I should say that this is being collected through your loyalty program, and we also count unique customer IDs as well. So the customer attribute is really going to be just dependent on how do you want to look at the data. Typically, if there's more of one, we can select that. So for example, we see that there's more phone numbers being collected than there are distinct email addresses. So I'm gonna go ahead and sort this by phone number. You can choose your market. So if you are looking at a specific store, choose whatever market that falls into, and then you can choose your store here. And then what we can look at with all this criteria selected is, again, the number of distinct email addresses. So we have about 1,500 or so email addresses being collected. We have about 2,400 distinct phone numbers. And then the distinct customer count is around 9,000. So over here at the very right, we kind of give a little background as to what these numbers mean. We are collecting all the transactions within the last 365 days. There isn't a date range filter, you'll notice. So this is all going to be the last 365 days. And points of sale allow for multiple, customer records, but we are only giving you the distinct customer record, email address, or phone number for you to look at. So we're not duplicating customer accounts. We're only looking at those distinct ones, if that makes sense. So down here, this is kind of the main dashboard or widget within this dashboard, the sale and customer counts. So this is going to give you a good idea of how many customers fall into each one of our segments. And these are the segments that we have down here. So new customers, visitor, loyal, potential loyalists, needs attention, champions, at risk, hibernating, promising, and cannot lose. So these are the different segments that we are looking at within Headset. A little bit more about the, we simplify and say RFM segmentation. this is kind of the description of the model here. So it's really determined on recency, frequency, and monetary value. And essentially in the background, we're giving your customers scores based on how long it's been since they last visited your store, which would be the recency, how often they visited your store in the last 365 days, which is the frequency, and then the total spend at your store in the last same time period. So that's the monetary value aspect. So they're really all relative to the customers at your selected stores. And that's a little bit about the model. And this is kind of a nice visual as to where your customers that fall into the segments live within this visual. And then down here, and I can send this out if anyone wants this information, or it can be found within our help center, but I'm happy to kind of send this information out to you after this. But this is the segment detail. So it will give you specific information on each one of these segments, so you can kind of understand them a little bit more. We also give recommendations onto, if you are building a marketing strategy, how best to target each one of these segments. So that's a little bit of an overview. And to kind of build out this story, I'm going to focus on one segment in particular, and that's going to be cannot lose. So the cannot lose customer, if we refer back to our help article here, there are highest spenders that have lapsed in their return visit cadence, but they make up the largest percentage of our store's total revenue. And so it's really vital that they don't slip away. One thing you'll notice if we look at this specific graph is that the cannot lose over here, yes, all these different bars are kind of higher, but this is the only segment that has less customers but make up more revenue than the amount of customers. So you'll see, oh, I guess Loyal does that too, and Champion. So ignore what I just said, but it's one of the top three. We only have 28 customers shopping that are in cannot lose, but they're making up almost a significant amount of revenue, and they could be making up even more if we target them efficiently and get them back into our store to continue spending what they normally would if they came back in. I should mention too, so the light green bar here is the customer count, and then the blue bar is the total revenue that segment makes up. So that's how to kind of look at that. And then the average revenue per customer is going to be in the gray dot. So the average revenue per customer for the cannot lose is $734. And I believe that's in a year. If anyone on the line wants to correct me on that, but that's the average revenue they would spend per year. All right, and then down here a little bit is just a couple of other visuals. I always find this kind of interesting. So you can see what percentage each segment makes up of your customers that are shopping at your store, and then what that total revenue looks like in turn of each of those. So of course, Champions, they don't make up a huge piece of the pie in terms of customer count, but obviously they make up a huge piece of the pie in terms of total revenue. So I always find that contrast kind of interesting, because obviously they're coming into your store all the time, they're spending a decent amount, and they really like you guys. So I always find these little pie charts interesting. Any questions on anything I've just gone over so far? No? All right, cool. So what I mentioned earlier, again, I'm going to focus on my cannot lose guys. So a good thing about Headset is that you can just click into this bar and be taken right to the cannot lose segmentation file. So if you go ahead and click on that specific bar, we're going to end up, I already have it loaded over here just in case it took a while, but it's actually the segment file dashboard right below segmentation overview where we just were. So this segment file is going to give you exactly who is shopping at your store that falls under this cannot lose segment. So with this, again, we're going to look at the phone number. We have our market and store selected. and it's going to automatically select the segment filter if you select it from that previous dashie. And then this customer gender and age group, you can filter into whatever you'd like to look at. But for today's purposes, I'm just looking at everything. I'm filtering out unknown here because I don't necessarily want to look at the unknown age group. Actually, let's go ahead and let's look at the unknown. But if I did this, you'll notice that cannot lose customer count is 28, but when I filter out the unknowns, it would be only 9. So maybe we want a fuller picture of everybody. So a little bit of stats in terms of our cannot lose segment. 28 customers shopping here. This is their average basket, so about $37. Total revenue, again, in the last 365 days is 20,568. And then these are this is information, average days between visits, as well as basket count. So in terms of, if you're kind of running a marketing campaign of 30 days or something like that, or for 30 days, and you're trying to get an increase in visits from these customers, I would assume that you would hope that this number would decrease because you're getting them in the store more often. That's kind of just a little benchmarking number that you can pull out. Or if you're trying to get them to spend more dollars at your store, you could track this average basket and come back here in a month. Hopefully this average basket would increase if you're kind of doing bundling deals or what have you to kind of increase their basket size. Again, the segment description over here is nice. It's actually pulling directly from this help article and being placed on the dashboard so you can read again, what the cannot lose customer segmentation looks like and what it means, and the recommendations that we offer to kind of get them or incentivize them to come to your store. Next thing that I'd like to really look at that I find super interesting is this customer list. So this customer list is all of the customers within your cannot lose file that have been shopping at your store. And you can see their customer attributes, so their phone numbers, or if email selected, emails would show there. Customer name, gender, what their top category is. So if you are building marketing strategies around that specific cannot lose segment, maybe you can take a look at what these customers' top categories are and build strategies around that, and maybe like do a text blast to them, this specific segment, to say, hey, we have a deal on vapor pens on this day, or something like that. This is one way to use that data. Days since last visit, you can kind of filter out that way, as well as what their average basket size is and total revenue. One thing I will mention with this as a tooltip, you can download this data into an Excel spreadsheet, or download into CSV and then upload in Google Sheets. This is a good way to kind of slice and dice the data on your own outside of this table. So you can just choose Excel spreadsheet and then advanced options if you need to format in a certain way or what have you. So again, that's with the 3 dots over here on the right. One thing I will mention is that we kind of talked about Springbig earlier, and Springbig will take these segments that we have built within Headset and place all the customers into those segments in Springbig, so you can easily target those specific groups of people. So everyone, for example, that falls under the cannot lose will be filtered into Springbig, and then that's where you can do your marketing, your text messages and things like that. So that's kind of how the segment files are interacting with Springbig on the back end, and that's how we integrate together. Any questions on the segment file here? Awesome. All right, so then segment demographics, this is just one more way to look at the data. If you're curious about, does a certain gender fall into one of the the segments more than other, or a specific age group, this is where you would go to gather that type of information. So again, it's showing you the number of distinct email addresses and phone numbers we have. And then you can also filter by segment here. Scrolling down, we have customer age group by segment. This is going to give you an idea of who makes up each segment in terms of age group. And you can see clearly like which age groups don't fall into any, like no 65 plus falls into promising. Okay, good to know. A lot of cannot lose segments are actually younger people. So maybe when you are thinking about building that cannot lose marketing strategy, you're only focusing on the younger age groups. That's something to kind of keep in mind too. And then down below is a gender by segment. So you can determine if a specific amount of females or males are falling into that. So cannot lose, for example, focusing on that, more females make up this segment than males. So maybe you could figure out, you know, what types of products are females buying in this age group and segment, and get them into the store that way with any deals or promotions. And we have further visuals down here. And then at the very bottom, I just wanted to point out that we have another data table. We usually have data tables in every single one of our dashboards. But again, you can download this into Excel and slice and dice it that way. But this is going to give you all of your segments within one nice data table. Any questions on any of the segment information?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How would we turn someone like a can't lose into a champion?
That's a great question, AJ. So I'm going to disclaim that I am not a marketer in any way. So there's probably better ways to do this. But I would say understand who your can't lose customers are and re-engage them with a enticing discount, for example. So really we can use dashboards like within Headset, like discount sensitivity and benchmarking as a pre-campaign to like level set and figure out what an appropriate discount would be for those customers. And then you can target those customers with that specific discount, understand also what products they might be purchasing and adhere that discount to those products. And then post-campaign, you can use cohort analysis, which we went through in a different training session to understand like your month-over-month retention and if you're getting more of those customers in or keeping them, I guess, if you're retaining them. So I guess that would be kind of high level what you can do. I think there's a lot more details that go into it though.
That was a good one though. I really like that strategy. I think that's a sound piece of advice. Thanks for that one.
Yeah, so with Springbag, we have a lot of materials on like if you are looking to run specific marketing strategies around any one of these segments, we have a lot of suggestions for our customers. So I believe I can also send that information out too to help start to formulate those different strategies.